Aloha and welcome to this brief screencast where I want to give you kind of a show and tell about how to install and configure IntelliJ IDEA. So I assume that you've gone to this link, student, and obtained a free student license or a login, and that you've gone to the download page and downloaded the latest release, which is the ultimate release, not the community release, but the good one. Okay, and basically I've downloaded it already. So it's sitting here right here, and then I want to go through this essentially the general configuration and the ICS SE code style preferences and so forth. So you can see how that works in practice. So I double click on this, and then it asks me to drag. This is the Mac way, but you know, Windows way is not going to be too much difference. And so it copies it to the applications folder. Once that's done, we can actually go to the applications folder. You can double click here, and we get this question about whether we really want to open something from the internet. In this case, we actually do. And then we come up with this complete installation, and we want to say, even if you have an old version, you want to say, I don't have a previous version and do not want to import my settings, so we can do this thing from scratch. So we'll click that. And we come up with this kind of wizard where we're going to go through a set of things. Pick any UI theme you want. I like the light one. Some people like the dark one. Doesn't really matter. Here it's you should generally click the I've never used IDEA so that it gives you the preferred key map. In this case, adapted for OS X. You definitely don't want to set your key map to Vim or Emacs or Eclipse or something like that because you want access to the IntelliJ ones. The launcher script, we're not going to use that, so forget about that. Okay, here's where things are important. By default, IntelliJ IDEA has a lot of plugins that it loads when you bring the system up, which slows down, it makes it longer to start up IntelliJ IDEA, and we don't like that. So I'm going to go through these and show you the minimum that you need for our class. We don't need any of this junk for Java for this class. Let's get rid of all of them. And then we go back and you see that now this thing is dark. We don't need any of these build tools, so we'll save these changes after disabling all. Web development, we do need some. And particularly, we need HTML, we need JavaScript, and we need CSS. So there's three that we need from this. So make sure those are set. Click and go back. Version controls. We do need some of those. We basically need GitHub and Git. Okay, so keep those two. Test tools, we don't need any of these for JavaScript. So we'll disable all, save changes and go back. Application servers, that's already disabled. Clouds, we're not using any of these particular cloud things. We don't use the Swing UI Designer. We don't use database tools at this time, and we don't use, we don't use any of these other tools. So we're going to disable them. Plugin development, we don't need that. So at the end of the day, there's really only two sections of this that are actually needed for what we're going to do in this class. And what you're going to see is that we'll start up a lot more quickly. The next one, the final section in this kind of wizard startup thing is to I don't know, they have featured plugins. I don't really get why that is. We're not going to have any of the featured plugins. Later we will in fact integrate with Node, but let's not do that at this point. Okay, so there we have it. And the next step is to load the ICS SE code style preferences. In order to do that, we'll go to the IntelliJ IDEA window and select Preferences. That's going to be a little different depending on the platform, but get to the Preferences menu, and then we go into Editor Code Style, and we want to load a class-specific code style document, which is available online by clicking on that link right there. So I've already downloaded that to my desktop. So I'm going to click Import here and import that, and we'll go to the desktop, and we can see it right here, ICS SE code style.xml. We'll say OK. And yes, we will import it from this thing into this particular named scheme. And now we've got it. Okay. So we can say close, and we can say OK, and we're back to our startup. There's one final thing that we need to do for this configuration is to enable soft wrap, which I think they should have that enabled by default because it's certainly very useful. To do that, we have to go to Preferences Editor General. So Preferences Editor General. We want to say use soft wraps in editor. That means that when the text is actually one long line and it's scrolling off the screen, it won't actually insert a character term, but it'll wrap around so you just can see all the the text in your screen without actually having those hard character turns. So you click it here, and then that's also quite useful inside the console. So I'm going to expand this menu, go to console, and say use soft wraps in console. Then we click OK, and now all we have to do is verify that we can start up in less than 5 seconds. So let's quit IntelliJ IDEA, and let's go to Applications. And now I got to set my watch here to time this puppy. So I'm going to double click and quickly click my watch, and bam. 5 seconds. It took me 5 seconds and 5/100ths of a second actually, but it took me probably 5/100ths just to get to my watch. So basically, IntelliJ IDEA now loads in 5 seconds for me. I believe that you should configure it so it loads in less than 10 seconds, no matter what the platform. If you are using a Mac, there's some additional stuff to get all your keyboards working. You can just look at that on your own. But basically that's all there is to it. Get IntelliJ installed and configured this way, and I think you will be a happy camper.